Good morning and hello to you all. A warm welcome from our side to this presentation. My name is Carsten Stock and together with me is Eric Segeris. We'd like to present you our experiences with Focu Build at RWE. What is our agenda for today? First, an intro into RWE and the project. And then the main focus is set on three perspectives: technology, documentation, and concepts. Of course, we also had some unplanned events, like changes to our plan, and then we show you how we have handled these events in the lessons learned sections. Short something about my info about me. I'm working for RWE almost now for 20 years, and for about 10 years in a SAP application lifecycle management environment with a focus on charm and test management in the SAP Solution Manager.
And my name is Eric Segeris. I'm working for a small company called Vostura. Some German customers will know us. We are in the meantime specialized in beer tastings, but my main activities are coaching and training for Focu Build, process management and test management. I have started my SAP career in 2005 at SAP Consulting, built up there the ALM team. But in the meantime, since 2016, I'm working for that small company. Go ahead, Carsten.
Thanks. So some short facts. RWE is one of the bigger energy producer in Europe. Our headquarters is located in Essen. The motivation for this project was a merger of different renewables companies. It's a greenfield project, and therefore S4 was chosen to start with the new systems right ahead. Now a short overview of some project parameters. The project timeline is around 2 years. Go live is planned for end of this year, the first one. Our implementation partner is SAP Deutschland. 13 countries are involved, and we have about 400 project members currently. In the middle column, we will find those perspectives that are plannable and manageable prior to the project. And on the left side, we will find the experiences we made. The lessons learned area will help you to overcome those obstacles later, easier. We have three perspectives. We'll start with important tool decisions, mostly taken at the beginning of the project. What functionalities from Focu Build were used? Then second, what preparations and solution documentation and parallel activities were done? And third, which conceptual and organizational topics were considered? As always, there are unplanned events that might occur during such a big project or management decisions that were taken and that we have to react on. And in the last section, we will share our experiences to avoid you struggling with the same issues we had during this project. So let's start with the features and functions we chose for this project. We started with a SAP Solution Manager on SP09 with Service Pack 04 for Focu Build, and we had no time to upgrade to the current version before. So because Solution Manager was already in use for change request management for other customers. The BSC Scrum Guide was decided to use for the project planning, because we had also other good experiences on that with the previous project in energy. The Scrum Board is a key entry point for agile teams for working with Focu Build, especially during the situation in the last year where not all people could work together in one place. We used the simple IT requests as an easy entry point for project-related support tickets. For manual testing, we used Focu Build test suite features like Test Step Designer, Assignment Analysis, and no classical test documents. There was an early decision to start with TTA test automation, but a late start with that due to other occurrences in the project. The maintenance planned with charm, as it is already in place, is now also taking this decision because it's more flexible for maintenance processes than Focu Build, as we have several processes for the customer which are very specific. We started to use Focu Build already after 2 months, early in the project.
Carsten, as we may have enough time to look a little bit deeper in, perhaps switch back to the technology perspective again, because what we would like to achieve with our today's presentation is that you get some hints for a project that you may plan. And behind these information, there are a lot of decisions that we have taken during the planning. And I would like to emphasize a little of some of the topics, why we did that decisions. And Scrum Board really is a solution that helps a lot, at least those people that do not work as much with SAP Solution Manager and Focu Build. That is their central entry point, and I like that add-on to the Focu Build add-on. That was a decision that is worth doing that. Keep it in mind when you plan for a Focu Build project. So next point around the testing topics. The test step designer that we were choose is worth to do it because it is so easy to create test cases out of the solution documentation. That's a good basis to have it in place. And we have decided only to use that test steps test cases. There are no test documents that we are using. And that was a good decision. So that is then a strict approach that we took in the project. And there is one more feature behind that test, that behind Focu Build. We have used that assignment analysis for the single functional test plan creation. And what's behind that? If you are at the end of the wave and you know all the work packages that brought new functionality to your solution, then it's a quite good approach exactly to take that work packages for your single functional testing, and Focu Build is creating automatically the test plan that includes all the work packages. And there's a one-to-one relation to create test packages out of that work packages. So there was one more decision in the testing, that we use the test sequences for the end-to-end test plan creation. And there we used a feature. It is not completely used during our testing. In the meantime, you have the chance to use the test result attributes, means a follow-up test team in a test sequence will get the test results to be used for their testing in when using the test results attributes here. Let me step in a little bit to the TTA topic. You may know last year TTA was announced by SAP to be the test automation tool to be used in future. And then we changed our decision. We wanted to start with CBTA, and then we started with, and then we changed to TTA. But it took a while until the software was available. We had some discussions, and it took us a while to implement it. Yeah, please keep in mind. Yeah, it will take you 2 months, or it took us 2 months to start with it until in a big company like RWE, all the organizational and technical preparations were done. So that's just some additions. I guess next slide is with me, Carsten, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. This is a topic solution documentation perspective. Yeah, there are not as much people that like really that solution documentation, and it has nothing to do with the functionality that is in there. It has some complexity, that's clear, but it has to do with the work that is behind. But for me, solution documentation is really essential for all the testing that then afterwards is planned, at least for the functional testing during the waves, but as well for the end-to-end testing. And to give you an idea, we have collected some numbers, and there are a lot of information on that slide. That's too much, but take it as, yeah, as a kind of a checklist, what you have to think about when you plan a Focu Build project. To give you some numbers, we had 400 modular processes, and these modular processes were used for the single functional test at wave end. We have a very clear structure of process areas, process scenarios, processes, and process steps. So means we have structured the processes with just 2 additional areas, process area and scenario. We have taken the best practices content, but our experience are different. For some teams, it was good to use them, was a good starting point. For some teams, there was no best practice content available. And to the judgment about that, we will come later on during a presentation. We have defined the end-to-end processes as well. We have, in the meantime, we have 11 end-to-end scenarios in place that we use for an end-to-end test. It took us a while to have a clear definition in a project to that. We will come to that later on. Yeah, start early with that. So, as already explained, modular processes for the single functional tests, end-to-end processes for the functional integration test, and at the end of the project during deployment for the final functional integration test, and as well used for the user acceptance tests. Yeah, one decision was made where to assign the test cases, and as you know, test cases could be assigned on a process step level, can be assigned to a scenario level as well, but we very clearly assigned it to that process level. Why is that? Because we use the test step designer, and the test step designer brings in the advantages or its benefits when you create the test cases on a process level. Means process steps are used and become the test steps in that test cases. So we decided to have a very uniform structure of using test cases and its documents. We have clear naming conventions that helps a lot because as in every big project, you will check, do the teams the right things? Do they fulfill that requirements in terms of naming conventions? And it helps a lot to find out what is the status of the documentation if you have such clear naming conventions. There are recommendations by SAP, but every project will have its own recommendations. In the meantime, we have a very good structure, some input from the InnoGit project and from the past. Yeah, get in contact with us when you want to have some hints to that conventions. We completely oriented on the recommended documents to be used with Focu Build. We had only one config guide version. We only had one functional specification template. We did not make the differentiation between different RISEF types, and we had exactly one technically design that is a little bit easier than it is planned with Focu Build. So we made, when we come to the topics library usage, then we, as it is recommended with Focu Build, we use the config guides and assign them to the config units. So that's a typical approach. We made the decision for the technical design to use it in the same manner. So we have stored all the technical designs with a separate config unit in the libraries, and from our perspective, that's a good approach to keep them the same way as the config guides. We generated the executable library and with the functional specification, we kept it like it is planned with Focu Build. We assigned it to the processes. So I already explained, yes, we use that best practice models as it was a model company, or the S4HANA project was based on the model company, and we use that S4 1909 content at the beginning, and then in between we had an unplanned event, and then we used some 2020 content. So let's come to next slide. I guess that's with me again. Focu Build is not just a click and start. You need some conceptual and organizational preparations, and that gives you a hint where especially it is needed to have some preparations, and there are some ongoing activities that are needed as well. So give me at the beginning, on the left-hand side, you see the project setup and the structure we had. We had one master project. We had 15 agile build projects that we are managing, and we have, in addition to that, 9 non-agile projects that we used. What is a non-agile project? There's an example. We, as a solution manager team, do not work in an agile way. We had a non-agile project, or the training and enablement team had as well a non-agile project. Why is that needed? We used some solution manager functionality to track their milestones, to track their tasks, and that's why we had that non-agile build projects as well. So when you go to set up Focu Build, and that's the fourth point on the left-hand side, it's always a question, oh, how to build up all these projects. And I know in the meantime, there is a wizard that you can use to build up all the projects, but there is an easier way. When you start with building up the master project and at least one build project, you can choose the ITPPM functionality to export a project, to adjust it a little, to change some names in the text file that has been exported, and then re-import it. You spend so much less effort by doing that than to type in any dates and any adjustments that you have done. So if you build up a big project, the export and re-import helps a lot. We did not use any resource and effort management with the ITPPM. That's a huge product functionality in there. We didn't use it. We decided against that. So when I'm talking about an agile project, then there are clear rules behind. So in agile project means it's not chaotic and unplanned, it's really planned, and planned means you have a very clear schedule and you should keep that schedule during your complete project. And we have within our project 2 go lives. We have planned for 5 waves. We will add one wave now in for further go lives. We have always three sprints. We have 3 weeks per sprint, and for the non-agile, I already said it. We used the ITPPM functionality for milestone managing. So when it comes to a project, training and enablement, it's very important. And you have changing project teams, new colleagues that join the project. One recommendation by our side is record all the training sessions. So that's sometimes not easy. You have to align with the Workers' Council that it is allowed. That's one of the main recommendations because there's a lot of knowledge transfer during that project needed. The second point, and that's one of my favorites, is consultation hours. And consultation hours means we have 2 time slots each week where we are open for questions, answers by the users. How does it work? The users share the screen with their problems, and we try to solve all the issues during that half an hour or an hour session. And with those we can't solve, we take it with us and solve it later on. Helps a lot for to share experience by the others. Some participants we have regularly join only to learn from the others, to get that to prevent mistakes others already did. So when you plan for a project, I come to the next column is project roles. You need a clear mapping of your project roles, and on the other hand, the technical roles that comes with Focu Build. We use that Focu Build, the Focu Build roles, but you need that mapping. That's important because you could not implement exactly that Focu Build roles to your project. You typically have some other role definition in your project. So what adjustment of tools we did? We did some adjustments to the milestone definition that are used in the solution readiness dashboard when we do the reporting. We did some KPI framework adjustments. I wouldn't do again these things because it's in the meantime quite good, the definitions that comes from SAP. And we have naming conventions, and we have separate number ranges for all the transaction types, such as requirements, work packages, work items, defects, corrections, and so on. That makes sense, gives you a good orientation when you are looking for some things. You will have, or perhaps you have already made the experience to use that mass change operations app makes really sense. So one more point is related to what is the meaning of all the effort, story, value points that are could be managed on the requirements and work packages and work items. Please find a clear definition what is meant when you do any effort tracking based on that. That's a hint. It took us a while to have an alignment. So next slide.
Yes. Now we're getting to the unplanned events which occurred during the project, which also could happen to your projects. One thing is that we started with Focu Build very early in the project, so we had little time to prepare on that to all our team members. We decided to upgrade the solution manager due to missing functionalities in Focu Build while the project was already running. And another thing was that we upgraded the complete S/4HANA landscape. That was not only related to technical motivations, but also we need some business functions which were available in the next release. Also, our migration team started a little bit later, and that led to missing usable test data. But not everything can be planned up front. So how can you prepare yourself and your team? What are the lessons learned and how you can handle these hurdles? First thing is that you prepare your solution manager very good. If you upgrade it, the best thing is to create own test cases that you can test all your important scenarios after you upgrade. So in that case, we did it on our development system first, and then we had a 2 weeks test phase for the upgrade. And you need also have some members involved from the other teams, and then it would be easier to upgrade the solution manager. The technical upgrade took us also some time, but what we can here advise is do it very only so only if you really need some functions which are available in the new S/4HANA, because if you upgrade your system, you will need also a rollout of all the functionalities which are already developed until then in the Focu Build project. And this has to be done very careful, also with documents related to those Focu Build objects. We had several changes in the client setup due to migrations and integration of the learning platform. And this also led to some issues, for instance, in the transport rules, which have to be checked, or if you do a client copy. So please make sure that you plan such things very good upfront to prepare and to keep the system running smoothly. What have we else from solution documentation perspective?
I would like you to step back again to the session because I always have things to add. I would like to talk about the 2020 upgrade topic again. It was really hard work to do that during the project. Yeah, please. It felt like an own go live to do that, because when doing an upgrade, you may know it, you have to bring everything into that production system. As we had a greenfield approach, it worked fine, but took it really seriously, avoid upgrades if possible. The only good message behind is it was a dry run for the deployment. So it was the first time that we had in mind what to consider and what to prepare and what could work wrong. So if I could make the decision, then I would never do it again. But as it was an unplanned event, yeah, you not always have that freedom to decide it here. So let's come to the next one. Yeah. From the solution documentation perspective, what were all lessons learned? It makes sense to use the SAP best practices if they are available. It is worth to use the structure to be clear on that level that are above that structure that you have to do by your own. But we made the experience for those teams that had no best practice content. One example was real estate management. They built up their processes by their own, and the quality, due to the fact they built it up by their own, was much better, or they were better able to work with that. Means my lessons learned is if you use within your teams the best practice content, really adjust it to your needs. Feel free to delete test steps that are not needed. That is one of the main activities that has to be done. And we had to accomplish all the activities. There's a lot to do by building up the right content. Do not underestimate the efforts that are related to that solution documentation preparation. So that is especially the case for the end-to-end processes. There have to be find out a clear definition what is an end-to-end process in the company. From my understanding, an end-to-end process starts then when you cross the border of your organizational area, when you fit or bring together different modular tests. And there's always one misunderstanding behind. To bring modular processes together means not to just take them as they are. And Michael Clever was explaining it during trainings in the past as well. Please take it, simplify it, take it rather step by step, means process step by process step when you build up that end-to-end processes. Start very early with that. Use it already in your functional integration tests. That's the main message behind that topic. The third part, process and methodological knowledge. You need two things. One is really you need that people that fulfill that role of a business analyst from a solution documentation perspective, and you need the capabilities that they understand how the branch concept works within solution documentation. So that's really important to get that needed progress. Next slide, please. That's with me again, Carsten, I guess, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So conceptual and organizational perspective, we already explained, yes, it's an agile project schedule is fixed, and we did a big mistake by creating that schedule, because all our waves, they were 3 month waves, they were exactly at the end of quarter. That's or the test phases, we call it the HIP phases, were exactly at the quarter end. And that means that the people that were planned for testing, especially in general ledger, are occupied by their daily business. And it was always a struggle to get them for testing and to finalize the test activities. So please take a look. Do not do the same mistake as we did. Then next topic, organizational change. Do not underestimate that for most project participants, the change to an agile project is very new. And not only the agile thinking, what comprises how to define work packages, how to test it at the end, how to work in sprints. It is as well the understanding how the Focu Build works. It will take you 1 to 2 waves that you get the understanding by most of the project members. So,
hi, Eric. We have 5 minutes left for Q&A.
Yeah, we are always we are close to be done. I keep it short. The topic around consultation hours, I already mentioned. That's worth to do, and the recording as well. We come to our last slide.
Yes. So just a conclusion, a short conclusion from my side. Why does it make sense to use Focu Build, and what are the key benefits we had? Well, it's proven and standardized, and it has flexibility only where you really need it. There's no special treatment for project like the German extrawurst, which we have in our standard processes, and that means also lower maintenance efforts. The supportability is good because SAP knows the solution and it's not customized. There's already a large existing network of sub-partner experts which is able to support you, and we have a fast and transparent overview of the current project status, like with the Scrum board and also the other tools we have in the Focu Build. So that were the main reasons which made us easier to get over some of the struggles we had through in this project. That's my summation from this point. Anything to add from you, Eric, currently? Before we come
no, I would like to ask an icebreaker question, not to you, Carsten, so to the audience. And we were talking about the unplanned events. Perhaps write it down in chat or in the Q&A area. Yeah, what were unplanned and events from your side, or what are unplanned events you expect in your projects, and perhaps we could give you a hint how to handle it. So it's now up to you to ask questions, regardless what it is. Yeah. Okay. There is a question or a hint to unexpected roll and write complexity. I guess that it is related to how to adjust the roles in Focu Build. So what we really did, it was a good approach. We had an Excel file. On the top, in the columns, we had the project roles, and we had on the left-hand side, we had that Focu Build roles. And then we did a mapping and decided which project role will get which Focu Build role. And the adjustments we made were only some related to solution documentation, and that was not as much in big issue. When that question is also related to the S/4HANA roles that are needed, therefore we use that simple IT request. We defined service entries in that simple IT request. It was directly assigned to our security team. So there's a next question. Did you use any external tool integration? Was Scrum board one of those? Any experience how well Focu Build worked as tool without any integration to external tools? Yes, as already described by Carsten, we used that BSC Scrum board. At the beginning, we had some or detected some failures, but that was then fixed. And the second tool we used was the Trizentis test automation integration. These were the both tools that we used. But the question is related without any external integrations. Yes, Focu Build works as well, quite easy.
Yeah. Also, during the current situation that we had distributed working situations, so we had working all over the country and all over the world. The Scrum board helps us a lot more because you don't have a pin board in your office where the team can gather together and work with it. So also that was a good point to use Scrum board.
So next question is related to ITPPM, how we used it. If we used it for monitoring the project, not really. We used it for to manage milestones for the non-agile projects. But I would never do it again, because then it's really easier to have a kind of an Excel sheet than to use ITPPM for that. And any resource tracking in the project, we didn't use ITPPM for. It was separated. The PMO used some exports from Focu Build to track the progress and managed it outside Solution Manager and Focu Build.
There's one question in the chat related to solution documentation config units. Did you use one config guide for process or one for work package and work item? Well, we reused some of the config units, but it was related to the teams and to the process, whether to do it per work package or per process. Is that right, Eric?
Yeah, we had one config guide per work package for fit work packages, but it could be that it has been reused, that config guide, as we use that concept to assign to a process a config unit. The config guide were stored in the library. So if 2 or more work packages were configured with the, or customized with the same config guides, we used only one.
There's one question about the lessons learned on planning releases. Well, as we're not going live yet, the go live will be in the end of the year. But what we can tell, if you have some migration involved also in the project, do that at the early time, because migration and release planning and deployment will somehow get into conflicts. So take care that this is really good planned.
Yeah, but perhaps one thing is always important when you have that deployment phase, and we are currently in that deployment phase where we do the final functional integration test and the UIT, then you should prevent any additional developments for further waves. Yeah, so to have a kind of a code freeze in place. It's not always possible to do so, but yeah, it should be at least your approach. Yeah.
One question from Friedman. Performance.
Yeah, very good question. So there are functionalities that take some time. So when you use the mass change operations app and the filter criteria you entered are very, very wide, then it could take some time. Or when you look to when you are in a work package or in a work item and you click on the documentation tab and want to see which documents are assigned, that may take some time. We are not talking about hours. You could work with it, but sometimes it's a kind of hindrance when working with it. But we have 500 users on the systems system. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, Carsten, some additions.
Yes, for tailoring your work items, we could only suggest that you don't put so much transports in one work item, because if you put it to test and the transport of copies are created, it could take quite a while the more transports you have with it. So better create another work item for that. If you can group it together under one work package, then let's say if you have 10 or more transports under one work item, this can really take some time to create the transport of copies and put it into the next phase.
So I guess the next question is already answered by it's exactly so, yes. what Carsten were describing. Yeah.
We also use this created report on our own, where we can change the status in the background with a batch process, so we had more time before the timeout come. But this is some of the issues we had in our project. Especially if you have a new system and when you get some transport, even if it's only one transport, but it's collecting several customizing tables with hundreds or thousands of entries, this will something be which is time consuming.
There's one more lessons learned that comes in my mind is related to when the status change didn't work. We at RWE have a tool that is similar to CRMD order, where you manually can change the status of a transaction type. That's not always a good idea to change statuses out of Focu Build transaction types without using the Focu Build functionalities. So really take care not to do it as often. It could happen that then these transaction types are not manageable anymore with Focu Build.
At least if not using the checks and actions which are available in PPF framework, because we have a switch where we can check and set those proofs, those checks out, and with all the checks, we had those side effects that Focu Build is sometimes doing some things which hinders you with working on this item again.
Okay, and I guess Patrick gives the hint that it is the most used workaround in projects as in his projects as well. Yeah. Okay.
Take it only as a last support if nothing else goes on with Focu Build and you don't know. Because something we also had experiences is error messages which arises in Focu Build. If you're working on a work package and work item and some action is not processed, the error messages which are arising are not always so good with the content. So to find out what's happening or why it's not going on.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, I would like to thank you very much. Carsten, I guess. Oh, there's no, it's fine. Yeah, Carsten, thank you for presenting as well. Have a nice day and enjoy the further sessions at ALM Summit EMEA. Thank you very much.
Question was there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, one easy answer is here. Take a look at rapidsap.com and look to the best practice content that is available. It's always, as already mentioned, a good starting point to take a look on it. That would be my first. So it is Solman. Sorry, I'm on a wrong way.
Yeah. Well, maybe you try to find an external partner or a coach which can support you in the project, who is already experienced and get you by your side, and like handing your hands and guide you through that. That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, I guess it's the only valid answer to that. Yeah, thank you, Carsten.
That's the experiences we made also in our project. We had some good external partners with Eric's company, which helped us because we not all had so much experiences with Focu Build and Solution Manager, and by that help, we got good through it, and we were easy or faster in the project to support too.
Yeah, there is that SAP ecosystems for Solution Manager Focu Build. There are a lot of partners available, and let you tell from them what their experiences with Focu Build was with their previous project, and if they find out similar things as we did, then it should be a good partner for you.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Then
wish you a nice day or a nice weekend, and thank you, Eric, for your participation.